Since the mid-1990s, the Rutherford Institute has handled many cases involving students, especially young students, and zero-tolerance policies. The cases are legion out there, and they just continue to get more crazy and ludicrous. A young grade school kid who took Legos to school, and one of the Legos was a little policeman with a very tiny gun, and he was suspended from school. Believe it or not, this young man, his father, is a policeman. An 8-year-old in Rhode Island goes to school with a hat with American flags on it and small, tiny guns around it, celebrating his relatives who happen to be veterans. Well, those little tiny guns, which of course can't shoot bullets, and they would stay on the hat, they couldn't come off the hat. He was suspended from school for violating a zero-tolerance policy against weapons. If you go to our website at rutherford.org, you can see we have a whole section on the cases we've handled, and you can read my commentary this week called Zero-Tolerance Policies. Have our schools become police states? A most recent case of a fellow named Andrew Michael in Spotsylvania, Virginia, a young 14-year-old who thought it would be cool if he would take the casing off his pen, a little plastic casing, and some little small plastic pellets that he had bought at a toy store, by the way. He thought it'd be cool to shoot a few classmates and have some fun. Well, he did that. He said 3 of the classmates seemed quite annoyed, and a few of them complained, and Andrew Michael was brought into the principal's office and was told that he was going to get an immediate 10-day suspension from school, and they were going to punish him to the full extent of the law, which would mean felony charges for carrying a deadly weapon, which would be this little plastic casing. As it turns out, the school board decided to throw this young man out for the rest of the year, so he loses a half a year of education. It has a great impact on this young man because he is an honor student. He's a member of the junior ROTC, a member of the color guard, and a kid with, a few pranks he's played in his life at school, but basically a very good school record. Zero-tolerance policies came into being basically in the mid-1990s. It was after a 1994 piece of legislation which basically gave a 1-year suspension for people bringing or students bringing weapons onto campus. Since then, zero-tolerance policies have become the vogue, especially after the Columbine incident in the late 1990s. Zero-tolerance policies have become very draconian, and now they actually criminalize what we would used to say was childish behavior, such as throwing spit wads and all kinds of things that kids do. It gets crazier. In 20-some states, kids have been thrown out of school for taking Alka-Seltzer to school in violation of a zero-tolerance drug policy. Kids have been thrown out of school, suspended, for gargling scope after lunch, or Listerine. These are young kids, 4th graders. One young man, because he brought certs to school and popped one in his mouth, was actually asked to go through, and he did go through, drug counseling. A young man violated a no cell phone policy when his father inadvertently called while he was in school. He picked up the cell phone to talk to his father, who's serving as a veteran in Iraq. He was suspended from school for answering the phone call from his father. And zero-tolerance policies really don't take into long-term effects on some of these kids. We had a case where 4 boys were playing cops and robbers on the playground. They were kindergartners with their fingers going bang, bang. They were suspended from school. One of the young men in the case wanted to be a policeman, but after his confrontation with school officials, he decided he no longer wanted to be involved in law enforcement. In fact, his parents were even considering counseling. We even had one young man who threatened to shoot a girl across the room with a wet spit wad. And this brings me to our next point. He threatened to shoot the little girl with a wet spit wad. And the school suspended him for the weapon, which was the spit wad and the rubber band used to launch it on. That night, after midnight, the police actually came to the house to investigate, ask the parents, the shooting incident. This is a spit wad, folks. So what's happening in every instance now, these are turned over to the police, which means that they're automatically criminalized. Not only does this give kids a police record, but it lasts forever, folks, today on electronic transmissions. There are other problems with zero-tolerance policies, but I think one thing that really troubles me, they really send a bad political science lesson, and that is in schools we really have no rights. The schools don't do a good job of teaching the Bill of Rights and civics anyway, but by punishing them for the least thing and throwing them out of school or turning them over to the police, they're teaching our kids to live in a police state. I guess the question is that if our students of this generation are learning a lesson and they're going to apply it to the next generation, they're going to grow up thinking they really have no rights. And what we're doing is we're really teaching our kids to be compliant citizens in a totalitarian state.